Hey, what's up guys, John here. For many years, Janet Yellen has promised America that inflation was transitory. We're going to go back to a 2 or 3% inflation rate.
We expect somewhat higher inflation over the next several months, but that's a transitory thing.
And millions of people were hoping that was true. But now, she came out today, about an hour ago, saying, well, she warns high prices could be here to stay. And then as you go into this article, she says, and on many household staples, they could continue to rise.
Even as inflation comes down, the prices still are going up. They're just going up at a slower rate. So the Fed cannot let inflation come back.
But then, when you go on Congress.gov and you read some of these bills that they're working on, and you start to look behind the scenes of what's really going on in America, you're going to see very, very clearly that U.S. household staples, what you buy for your home, the food that you eat, it's all about to go up. And not by 5 or 8 or 10%, 50, 100, 200%. I wish this wasn't the case. But when you start to look at all of these facts, you're going to see things very, very clearly. That prices are only going one way and they're going up in a very, very, very big way. Now, what I think is going to happen as prices continue to rise, we're going to see millions of people that aren't simply going to be able to hold on to that second car. So they're going to sell it. And they don't need that watch. They're going to sell the watch. They don't need the Airbnb. They're going to try to get out from underneath of it, maybe even downsize the house, or maybe even go to being a renter. They're going to start to downsize expenses. That is what we're walking into. I'm going to show you what is going on behind the scenes to help you and position you ahead of 99% of other people that simply just think that everything's going back to 2018, 2019. It's not. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. I wish it was. I mean, I have kids. I wish they could live in that world because it was a better world. I'm going to break this down for you. I'll give you the facts. Please hit the like button. Hit the like button. YouTube will share the content, educate more people. Just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And also, if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for this massive wealth transfer, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session for tomorrow, for Friday. Take a look at this. So, inflation is coming down faster than most economists expected. But Americans hoping for a widespread drop in prices may be disappointed, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. I don't expect the level of pricing to go down. Some prices will be higher than they were before the pandemic and will stay higher, Yellen said in a contentious exchange with John Kerry. But wages have risen considerably and the pace of price increases has now receded over the past 6 months. Well, she says that we don't have to get prices down because wages are going up. She said that the median worker in the U.S. can buy the same basket of goods they did in 2019 with $1,400 left over. So Americans on average are better off in spite of the fact of prices being higher. Now, let's fact check it. So she's saying $1,400 left over. Well, inflation right now, presently, is costing Americans on the same exact report $1,020 more each month, which equates to about $12,500 ballpark, right, per year. And wages in 2019, the year in which she mentioned, was $86,000. Now, in 2022 was $92,000, right? So we'll round up. We'll say $93,000, even $94,000, right? Because that's the data in which they provided. That would mean that the difference is $6,000, right? $6,000, $7,000, meaning that Americans are still in the whole $5,000, right, per year. That's based on their info. So when you're looking at this, you're like, all right, well, so what does this mean? How does this connect? Well, let's look at this. The savings rate for Americans is down at all-time low, right? Almost touching great financial crisis levels. So when you're seeing this and you're seeing credit card defaults, a certain amount, you're seeing record high credit card debt, 1.13 trillion. All of this is like within the last week. Credit card debt surpasses $1 trillion. You're seeing all of these problems happening. Credit card increases by 50 billion to a new record high. Now, let's look at some of these bills and let's look at what's actually going on in America, because we're walking into an environment with a universal basic income. No doubt about it. Stimulus checks, that was the gateway. That was the gateway to it. Because universal basic income, and then there's just stimulus checks, first round, everyone thought was, it was just one thing, and then it was second round, third round, fourth round, then it was PPP loans, EIDL loans. It was all of these things all working together into a universal basic income. And so this universal basic income, you have to ask yourself, how would it be funded? How would it be funded? Well, how it will be funded, according to them, is it'll be funded through tax revenue, right? Tax revenue is how universal basic income would be funded, right? This is givedirectly.gov, right? So how can tax revenue support a universal basic income? In 2008, 2009, during the Great Financial Crisis, which I would argue we're walking into something worse, nearly 50% of income was 50% of people didn't pay income tax during that. And the reason, about 47% will pay no federal income taxes for 2009. Either incomes are too low or they didn't qualify, right? And so why? Well, because they walked into a recession. People were making less money. People had a lot more write-offs, a lot more losses, and federal government lost because of that, because they didn't have the incomes to tax. So we're walking into a dynamic right now in the labor market that's changing, an economy that's changing. How can you walk into a situation like this, Congress.gov, where this was a bill they were working on 2021 and 2022. So, and just for context, for some people might say, oh no, that was then, they're not going to do this now. In 2021, there was 11 city-run pilot programs in America, right, for universal basic income. But in 2022, it increased to 82 across 29 states. In 2023, there were hundreds of them. So you tell me, are we moving into a direction of universal basic income? You go from 11 to hundreds inside of 2 years. I would argue yes. And I would argue that this is just the first of many bills that are coming. But this bill said it directs the Department of Health and Human Services to establish and implement a 3-year pilot program. 3-year pilot program to guaranteed monthly income to individual taxpayers between the ages of 18 and 65. HHS must consult with the IRS and certain nonpartisan nonprofit agencies and academic institutions with expertise in social science and experimentation to develop and award income subsidies to eligible taxpayers and conduct a study on the outcomes of the program. So they've been talking about a multi-year universal basic income pilot program. This is on Congress.gov. I'll pull it down so you can see the URL, Congress.gov, the bill, the 117th Congress House bill, right? And so when you look at this, and then you see this, you're going to see one thing that's about to happen here. Living standards in America are going to get really, really bad. Unfortunately, it's going to get third world. Like some people might say, people get offended with the word third world. Third world. That's what's going to happen. Like you look at where Venezuela is. You look at what some of these other countries are going through. We're going to start to see that start to drip into America. And it's going to start to really ramp up over the next couple of years. So this man right here said, with VR headsets, what he said here was, there's going to be people of means who are going to be able to travel. And then there's going to be people of lesser means who might actually be able to use Oculus or the Magic Leap or some kind of device to travel the same place but from their own couch, right? So this VR world that we're going to walk into is going to be supported by some type of universal basic income, which is going to be coming. It's already worked on. And then you just start asking yourself, how will all of this work? Well, when you look at how tax revenues funded or would fund it, right, they would likely print a lot more money. They're going to bring a lot more money into circulation, right? They're going to bring a lot more money into circulation, and you start to look at how they don't make money just solely on income tax. They're also getting it from property taxes. You look at what's going on in commercial real estate. For example, this deal right here sold for $3.9 million. In 2022, it sold for $14.3 million, right? Not a big deal. Lost about 75% of its value. This is happening in literally nearly every single city in America. This building right here, Xerox building, sold for $25 million or $83 a foot. It sold for $145 million 13 years ago in 2011, right? So $83 a foot for $25 million. They lost $120 million in just this one deal. This is happening in nearly every single city. Baltimore, right? This happens to be a downtown Baltimore office building, which sold for $25 million or $70 a foot, and the seller bought it for $80 million 6 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, right? So when the government's losing on taxes, both income and now commercial real estate, and they're going to have a big demand for social services as inflation gets worse. I'm talking, whether it be in real estate, with Section 8, that program is actually going to grow in a massive way, whether it be in food stamps, whether it be in, people, even retirees that have fixed incomes, they're going to have a harder time. Who's going to step up, right? They're likely going to print more money, giving money across the board. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what happens if you don't want that, right? Well, what I think is going to happen is what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk said there will be a universal high income, not basic, in a positive AI future. And he was talking about thousands of dollars per month, like $2-3 grand a month as a reoccurring. Think about that. If you're making 50, 60, 70, 80 grand a year and you don't want a universal basic income, maybe you're saying, you know what, I'd rather just, nothing's for free in this world. Anyone that's offering you something for free has something, bigger they'd gain on the back end. Maybe you don't want that. But if everyone else is giving 2, 3 grand, what do you think that's going to do to prices? Take it through the roof, right? It's going to take it through the roof. There's going to be a lot more cash available to chase goods and services. And so it's going to push a lot of people into a UBI. That's what would likely happen here. So I believe that next year, 2 years, 3 years, you want to get as far away from the middle as possible, either by having a great business, either being a part of a great company, but doing something at a really big scale the next few years, because I think the world's going to change really, really quickly, and I think people aren't really prepared for it. When Janet Yellen went on, the mainstream media a couple years ago saying, we're going back to, this inflationary problem is just transitory. All these problems are just transitory. Just realize this is going to drip. It's going to get worse over the next couple of years. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think that we're going to see, inflation being transitory, or are you agreeing with me that what's likely going to happen is we're going to see millions of people being forced to sell off assets, and we're going to see a situation here where the living standards falling for many, and those that have means are going to be able to travel. They're going to be able to, buy beautiful homes. They're going to be able to live life at levels in which many won't even be able to comprehend. What do you think about it? Drop below. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you'd like to fix your credit, maybe you want to get business funding, maybe you want to invest in distressed real estate, maybe you have a game plan to build wealth, make sure your credit score is in line with your goals so you can get that funding. So if you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com, click the link in the description just below this video, schedule a free strategy session for tomorrow, for Friday. Catch you next video.